Okay, so if you're anything like me, you won't be a fan of the fact that the new Unreal 5 template doesn't come with a crosshair. Now, this bugged me enough that this video is going to fix that, and that's why I've made this. So we've just got a simple dot crosshair in the center of the screen, and we've slightly adjusted the basic projectile to go more towards the target. I'm not going to speak while I'm firing because you won't be able to hear me because the default volume is really extreme, but as you can see, the projectile goes close enough to the center minus the bullet dip. So there you go. As you can see, the bullets fly towards the crosshair as expected. Now let's get this made. Okay, without wasting any time, once you've got a first person template open, go to your content folder, go to first person and go to blueprints. We want to open up the BP first person character, and we also want to open up the BP rifle. We are going to make some changes to the first person game mode. However, the changes we are going to make, we can change through the blueprint class menu up at the top. We're going to change the HUD class, but before we do that, we need to create the new one. We do this because the default HUD class isn't editable in Blueprint, only in C++. So to make a new one, we want to right click and open up a Blueprint class. And you're going to need the all classes drop down for this, so just click this little arrow and you'll get this menu. In the search bar, type in HUD and you should get a couple of options, but one will just be HUD. Select that, press select, and I'm going to call this one main HUD. I'll tell you what, I'm going to put underscore class just to differentiate. Main HUD class. We're going to open this up and then go to the event graph, and on event begin play we're going to create a widget, and then to get this widget to be on the screen, we're going to go from the return value and go add to viewport. And then this relies on a view. We need to have a character's viewport to put it on. So we change the owning player to ourselves. And typically, an easy way to do this is to get player controller. Now, typically, when you're playing in Unreal and press play, you are player 0. So this will get your controller and add it to your screen. Now, the only thing left is to select which class we want to add. But because we've not made this widget yet, we can't select it. So let's do that now. So if you go back to your map where your content browser is, and in the folder go to user interface, right click user interface and widget blueprint, and again either under all classes user widget, or now there is a common user widget button. You can select that, and I'm going to call this main widget. Alternatively, if you are going to have multiple widgets, you can just call it crosshair and drag them onto a single main window. But for this instance, I'm just going to have the main widget and just have everything inside that. Open up your main widget. Now, at the moment it's blank, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find an overlay and drag that in. Within the overlay, I'm going to add a size box, and then within the size box, I'm going to add an image. So, make sure that goes inside the size box and not with it. So we've got overlay, size box and image. Now, starting with the overlay, we don't need to make any changes, but with a size box we do need to make sure that it is centered horizontally and centered vertically. We are also going to override the width and height, and we're going to change this to 5 and 5. So you've got a little tiny square in the middle, and the image doesn't actually need to be changed either, because by default it will fill the space and it'll be white, which is absolutely fine. You can change this to whatever color you want, but I'm going to leave mine as it is. Hit compile and save, and you can close this because that's all we need to do. This should now bring you straight back to your HUD class. If not, navigate to your HUD class and pick select class and pick your main widget that you've just created. Hit compile and save, and that's also done for that. Now all that's left is, if you go back to your list of world blueprints, which is this button at the top, go to project settings and game mode and go to HUD and select HUD class and pick your new HUD class. And if you press play now, you'll notice that you've got a white dot in the center of your screen. The only thing is now that the ammo or the bullets are absolutely nowhere near it, so we're just going to slightly adjust the projectile to fire a bit more towards the crosshair. So with that being said, go to the BP rifle and let's zoom in just a little bit on the projectile spawn logic. Now, what happens is for this projectile to be created, it needs to be given a spawn sort of transform, which is its location, rotation, and other such. Now, what happens is if we look at the rotation, it actually takes where is our camera pointing and shoot in that rotation. Now, the only downside to that is if it goes straight forward, because the bullet dips quite quickly, it goes nowhere near our crosshair. So all we're going to do is we're going to hold Alt on the keyboard and click on these little nodes, or these lines, sorry, and just disconnect them from this camera rotation. We're going to right click the return value from the camera rotation and split it. Now, a rotation is made up of all these values, and we're just going to slightly adjust the pitch so the bullet travels a bit higher, and it more closely relates where the crosshair is. So what we need to do is let's just drag off one of these and type in make and then rotor. We're going to leave the roll, we're going to leave the yaw, but the pitch we are going to want to slightly adjust. So from the pitch we're just going to press plus, and we're just going to add about 5 degrees to this. So you just want to add 5, connect that back in. And then to make it look a little bit neater, I'm just going to double click on this line. Now if you double click on a line, what it does is it creates a reroute node. Now these have multiple uses, so then you can sort of split off them. However, I typically use them for making things look a bit neater. So I've just created a little bit of space there for that to go in. With that being said, we can now plug in that rotor there, and then we can bring this rotor back here. Again, if you want to make this look a bit neater, you can add a reroute node, one there, and drag one back here, and you can see that it just loops around a little bit better. Okay, so with that minor change, now if we go back and press play, you should notice that the bullet now flows towards the crosshair a little bit better. Now obviously bear in mind that because of the bullet dip, it does obviously drop down eventually, but for your mid-range targets, you should be absolutely fine. And one final thing, just because we seem to have got through this quite quickly, if you go back to your first person blueprint, at the bottom what we're going to do is just add a quick line trace, just so then you can see that the line trace goes straight to the center. So what I'm going to do, just for simplicity, I'm just going to type in Q and then space key, and this will bring up a keyboard event. So whenever we press the Q key, something's going to happen, and in our case it's going to be a line trace. Now line trace by channel is probably the most common, but you can pick any one you want, but for the purpose of this video, by channel. And a line trace will require a start and end position. Now to make this quite simply, if you get a first person camera and get to the world location, that's kind of like in a first person shooter, the first person camera is your head. So getting that location is probably a good place to start. Now there is another thing as well. The sort of first person camera is classed as like the eyes of the character, so what we can do is get eyes viewpoint, and the good thing about this node is that it gives you a rotor and a location. So what we can do is from the rotor we can get a forward vector, and this just tells us which direction are we looking in. From this we want to do a multiplication, and we want to change this vector node here. We need to convert it to a float. Now this essentially is your range, so how far do you want this line to travel in the world. So let's just say line range, or distance would be a better word probably, and I'm just going to press compile quickly and set this line range. I tell you what makes it easier is if we just right click, convert float, and set this to 2000. But again, you should promote this and probably set it to like a range type value. So this is set to 2000. Now what we want to do is we want to add our current view and our distance together, and this gives us our end location. So this is how far do we want to look in this direction, starting from here. That is the line trace, sort of like start and end finished. Now there's just a few other things we need to change. So the draw debug type set to for duration. Drop down this little menu and you can change your draw time there. 5 can be quite long, but regardless, you're probably going to be turning it off by the time you've programmed it anyway. And then if you want it to sort of feedback what you've hit, from this out hit, you want to drag out and go to break hit results. Drop this down and you'll see that there's like hit actor, hit component. I'm going to be hitting an actor, so I'm going to drag off the line trace and type in print string. This is just debug text that pops up on the screen, and I want to drag in my hit actor, and this will get the display name of what I've hit. Hit compile, hit play, and without anything actually, if I hit Q, you can see that this now this line trace is telling me everything that I hit. So I can see here that there's a third person character female, I've got a quarter cylinder, I've got a chamfered cube, and that's it, and it's hitting exactly where the crosshair is. So that's it. I hope this helped. It definitely helped me. If it did help, please consider subscribing, consider giving me a like, and also commenting. Your feedback's really appreciated. It really helps me know what people like and what people don't like. If you want me to cover something, or if you want me to go into a bit more detail about line tracing or firing, please leave a comment, let me know. And that's it really. There are some social links down below if you want to get in touch with me over Discord. My link's down below. And that's it. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in another video.